And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Life from the Inside Out with Kris. Today, we have a very special episode. We haven't done one of these in a while with a group of folks coming in and part of the session. If you're new to the channel, we're going to be doing a little bit of deep trance channeling with Kris. So stick around and absorb some of that wisdom. And if you've been here, welcome back, and really hoping you enjoy the episode. One of the cool things, I know we don't always have a topic, but Kris already mentioned we're going to be talking about why has the human mind lost its relationship to the natural world. So pretty excited about that. He mentioned it a couple episodes back, and we've got some uh, friends here with us. I think before we get started, let's just take a moment to introduce ourselves. And Serge, you want to go first?
I think that's really cool.
So my name is Serge, and I have been speaking for or giving voice to Kris for 41 years. And it's been a very interesting and sometimes challenging journey, but one of tremendous depth. It's opened me up to all sorts of ideas and notions that I could not have imagined otherwise. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy to see everyone here. And maybe we can just begin with an introduction.
Yeah, and I'm Daniel Winkle. I'm from California. And I guess I'm the video editor, producer, host, MC for Life from the Inside Out. And been studying with Kris for many, many years. So
I'm Brian Farrell from Philadelphia, PA. Been with Kris and Serge since 2006, and it's literally changed my life. I've grown in so many ways. So there that goes.
I'm Kathleen Garvey from Bloomfield, Vermont, and I have been with Kris since 2001 and am delighted and thrilled with each and every single utterance from Kris. I've gained tremendously in my spiritual growth, and I continue to grow and learn and use the exercises that Kris offers us to transform my ways of thinking and being into something much more beneficial and enabling myself to be of greater service to others and service to myself for my own well-being and that of all concerned. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I can jump in. My name's Alan. I'm from Colorado, and I've been around listening to Kris for quite a while.
I remember maybe we met at one of the early Rocky Mountain, Colorado South conferences back in the early 90s.
Yeah, I think that was the first. It was before Castaic. I remember that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. The Castaic didn't exist back then. I mean, the city still did, but the groups and conferences there were not at that time. So it's a while.
Hi, I'm Rogel Sanchez from Barcelona, and I always have been interested in alternative views of life and always looking for answers and like saying having the spirituality like in my blood, so to speak. And since I knew Kris some years ago, I have been very delighted with its teachings, and it has helped me quite a lot, and I am on my way into this thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
all
Okay,
right. Yeah,
then
you don't have to
maybe
say hi if you don't want to either. So that's cool. And last chance.
okay, so I guess we can go ahead and start. Yes.
Yep, let's go.
Now we trust that you are all comfortable.
Yes, very comfortable. Thanks, Kris.
Indeed, and we thank you for your consideration.
Thanks as well.
The idea of your relationship with the natural world, of course, is not an external phenomenon at all. You, at least your physical form, grows from the natural world. You are an extension of nature. You are not its master. You are not there to dominate nature, but you are there to continue expressing what nature is, but in a very, very beautiful and intricate way. Joseph this morning sent out his little newsletter, and we more or less influenced the choosing of the text itself, and especially the main caption. And your relationship with the natural world has to do also with your mindset. You may think your mind has nothing to do with the nature. You may think your mind has nothing to do with you, though at times you do find it rather a pest, something that hassles you, simply because you do not really know its contents. But in a very particular way, just like nature has its multitudes of ecosystems, so your mindset is a powerful reminder of that natural ecosystem within nature. But in this case, your mindset is a living, dynamic, ever-evolving psychological ecosystem. You may think that your thoughts, your feelings and emotions are something that you must handle. And you may think that your thoughts, feelings, and emotions are just something static, without realizing the powerful nature of that kind of energy. And it is not a multitude of energies, just differentiated mental energy selected by you and your species for very specific purposes. And in this case, all and every single one of your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions are living dynamic energy. You may not necessarily see that when you have a thought, though what you see or experience as a thought truly is only the pinprick end of a vast dynamic system of psychological energetic constructs that are so vast you are simply unable to fathom the depth, the width, and the literal thickness of it. But you get that little tiny glimpse of it when an idea pops into your head. Whatever that idea is a tiny little pinprick of that vast psychic and psychological construct that actually is a part of what you call the universe, or should we say, your universe. So you live in your universe. And yet your universe lives in you. It lives and exists in your mindset. So your mindset, that which is commonly referred to as the repository of your beliefs, your ideas, your feelings, emotions, and whatnot, is not just a tiny little bubble that seems to float somewhere in your mind. It actually is tightly and intricately interlaced in a profound way with every cell in your body. And we say your body. We did not say you. We said your body, to make a point that you are different from your body. Your body can be said to be your vehicle. Thus, you are psychologically integrated into the very atoms and molecules that make up your body and create your physical appearance. And this extends to not just your body, but to the physical environment within which your body has its expression. And that includes the nature. And if you were to look at the last few thousand years, humankind had a very particular relationship with the nature itself. And we are not talking about anthropomorphism here. We are talking about the relationship you had with the trees, with the water, with the air, with the sun, with the stars, with the clouds, with the earth, with the rocks. Recognizing that all of these expressions of the earth and the nature was sacred. Not to say that you revered it or that you must revere it, but it is a sacred expression of the deeper portions of you and your mindset, your universe. And gradually, your species extracted, divorced itself from the nature. And instead of working in conjunction with it and literally being its steward, you began to dominate it. You began to see the earth as not sacred, but as something to be used for your own ends, for your own purposes. Which means that gradually you also began to remove yourself. You reclused yourself from your own sacred nature, your own sacred self. You began to adopt ideas that somehow or other you might be sinful, tainted. Somehow or other, you viewed yourself as no longer sacred, but simply instead as the dominant force in the world. And this is part of your experimentation. This is part of what you have cultivated, working away from nature, away from your own selves. Because in many cases, you have more or less become automatons, functioning simply by rote, often not thinking, just reacting. And in this way, also not considering your own sacred expression. So you may go in the nature, whatever aspect that you interact with, and you will simply see water, air, trees, rocks, cliffs, rivers, and that is all. You only see the external manifestation, because you also now only see the external manifestation of your representation. You do not see yourself as being the authors and creators of your nature. So you have lost touch with that inner sacred nature of yours. Thus, you have also lost touch with nature specifically. Again, you only see things to use, wood to cut, rock to carve, and so on. Not that this was not going on before, but there was something additional to that experience. There was a certain reverence given to nature because it is sustaining you. It is representative of that part of your mindset that continuously allows you to express yourself. And in this way, you function more or less simply by the manner in which you react to your belief systems, which are the basic foundations of not only your reality, your universe, but everything that you perceive. Even nature itself is an integral part of your belief structures, your belief systems expressed in that environment. This is by no means the final word, nor are we the final authority on anything. But we just wanted to bring this particular topic to discussion, perhaps in the hopes of inviting you to reconsider what you think of as the external world, which in truth is a reflection of your own internal psychological ecosystem, your mindset, a living dynamic force in itself, and that you have a relationship with it. And next time you are in the nature, take a deep breath, look about, and allow the nature itself to nurture you, because it is what it does. It is that nurturing aspect of your consciousness that sustains you, that literally gives life to your physical form, and that maintains the physical form. Your energy, that energy that exists well beyond any multi-dimensional reality, exists in all particles and in all forms of expression. And by reconnecting with it, you can definitely make great strides in learning how to manage your own thoughts and feelings and emotions, your own state of mind. Because that state of mind is what is reflected into the natural world, the physical world. So again, we simply wanted to share this with you, perhaps to invite you to reflect a little more deeply, even about your own physical form, your own physical representation, as well as that energy, that living dynamic force that gives your physical form its energy, which is you, that which you refer to as the soul. And this is just a slight little reminder that you do not necessarily have a soul, as much as you are the soul, the living force, the prana that exists in your physical form. Does that make sense to you? Perhaps you might be open to questions. You might have to unmute yourselves.
Makes sense to me, Kris. Thank you.
Indeed, you are particularly attuned to that, considering whereabouts you live and experience your daily activities. Yes, right there in the nature. So one thing that you might be able to do, not just you, but everyone, next time you find yourself in that kind of an environment, pretend that you take deep breaths and exhale very nicely, and that the energy of your being begins to flow through the pores of your skin, the pores of your body, even through the thoughts of your mind, and reconnects with the same energy that exists within the nature that represents itself as what you call trees, rivers, air, clouds, and so on. Just make that a slight energetic frolic and allow yourself to be embraced and nurtured, perhaps in a way you've never thought possible concerning nature itself. And you might be pleasantly surprised. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Indeed. Might there be other inquiries? Please feel free, or comments as well.
Yeah, I've got one, Kris. I sent out to our Sunday group a little saying. It's like a daily affirmation calendar thing. And the one for today, one of the things was it made a comment and it really got me thinking. It said that as humans, we're more like trees than we realize. There's so many connections between how we function as humans and the characteristics of trees as well. I was wondering if you had any, it seems connected, if you had anything to say about that.
In many respects, you both exist in the environment. You both have roots, trees physical, you psychological, emotional, and familial. You both are transformers of chemicals and energy from one form into another. You both produce offspring. You wear clothing, trees wear leaves and needles. One of the major differences, however, is not only the fact that trees can be much taller than you, but that trees, like you in a way, communicate with each other, not just through their own roots, but through the fungi that spreads through their root systems. You have a psychological counterpart in that respect. Your energy and thought patterns attract both like-minded as well as opposite-minded into the sphere of your experience. You both draw from the earth, the trees from its roots and the trees from its leaves, to photosynthesize and produce energy and whatever sugars they need to survive. You draw your air, which is partially due to the trees themselves. Were all trees to disappear from your earth, you would not survive very long. They are essential. Trees also help in the production of moisture and cloud formation, and thus rain. So there are similarities and differences between your two species, and yet both of you are firmly rooted in your experience. The one difference is that if you want to go, you can go from Toronto to Chicago to New York to LA, whilst the tree doesn't have that privilege. It has to be in its spot for quite some time. But in its own way, it has its very own kind of dream molecules that are a special or particular effect of its own photosynthesis. But it is not that the tree will suddenly start to dream of itself as driving a big Tesla and having a big bank account, but it has its own particular form of dream action. Perhaps more difficult to describe, but that particular action in another way or another fashion mingles with dream time, mainly because for all intents and purposes, dream time is not specific to humans. You have your own version of dream time. Other creatures in your environment have their own version, but they are all expressions of dream time itself, which is a vast psychological field of energetic action. It's dynamic as dynamic can be. So trees also dream. Their dreams, unlike yours, which can last for a few moments in physical reality, but in psychological reality, appear to last for days, and vice versa. Their dreams can last months, decades, or centuries, or if the tree is old enough, it exists in a specific trance or altered state for millennia. Because the trees themselves exist in a trance-like state. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, you've taken it up several notches, but for sure.
Indeed. And just as you may travel the same route every day and recognize, yes, that tree was there yesterday and that tree is here today, you might think, yes, that tree may be here tomorrow. The tree also recognizes the different life forms in its particular energetic field. It may recognize you. It may recognize your dog too. It may recognize the cats, the squirrels. It has that kind of ability, but not in the same way that you say, oh yes, that guy there, that is Charlie, I met him last week. But it has a particular ability to recognize the tone of the individual expression, how that soul expresses itself. Because do not forget that you are not the only souls. Trees also have souls. They just do not express it the same way human beings do. Trees are souls, and they are composed of units of consciousness, just like your form, which means that they are multiple souls, just like you are. How is that for taking it up several notches now?
Yeah, I like it.
You might never be able to look at a tree the same way again.
I'm looking forward to it.
Indeed. Now, may there be other inquiries or observations, comments?
Hi. I'd just like to say that I really enjoy sleeping overnight in nature. It feels very good. In the morning, I'm very refreshed.
Indeed. And you yourself enjoy camping trips in the mountains. And let us say it is not just because the nature has a higher ozone layer or level, or that the air is pure. All of these are certainly powerful factors and effects. But being in the nature itself resonates much more deeply with the tone of your being. Because you are, first of all, if you notice very carefully, when you are in the nature and you actually make that effort to communicate energetically with it, you will notice that that constant chatter in the monkey mind, all that mental energy that you waste worrying about this, worrying about that, having these conversations, having this and having that, all of that may be greatly reduced to a degree where you feel unburdened, which is why you like to go there to get away from the city. Because over there, you do not have to contend with the repeated chatter in your mind. It is as if it is on pause. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense.
Next time you are out in nature, try to notice what happens to that constant inner dialogue, most of which oftentimes is in self-disapproval mode, constantly criticizing you. You are criticizing yourself. You're putting yourselves down for one reason or another. When you are in the nature, that does not happen unless you deliberately make an effort to stay there. But if you allow it, this is why nature is so nurturing. It allows your mind to breathe, to reflect, and to literally rejuvenate itself away from all the concerns that you usually deal with on a day in, day out basis. It is you are as if you are free floating within existence at that moment. So pay a little bit of attention when you are next in that environment and rejoice in it. In fact, celebrate it. Celebrate the experience. And you will see it, perhaps even feel there is a little bounce in your step, that you do not feel so burdened, more energized. It is a wonderful experience, actually, one that you should take advantage of.
Yeah, I have experienced this as an absolute truth. Being in nature is like so unburdening, and it really, yeah, it resonates a lot. Nature and dreaming, these two factors, so to speak, is the most that I feel clearly balanced by this and very nurtured. And I sometimes I say, yes, I recognize this, it's familiar, but as if you have forgotten sometimes when you have not, don't go to nature, so to speak. um, yeah, it's very refreshing, and you can feel this nurturing
Indeed.
and this
We
freedom.
would even say that the closest experience to dream time that you can have whilst you are physically awake and focused is in nature.
Yes.
It is as if nature is mesmerizing. It is enchanting because it reminds you so much of the dreamtime environment.
Yes, it's like an dreaming experience as well. Is the so-called mindfulness is like more easily, you experience it naturally.
Indeed.
If you
We could even go so far as to say, in a particular way, when you are in nature and you begin to feel this way, it actually reminds you, perhaps unconsciously, but it reminds you of your time in the womb.
Yes, and there is another thing. It's in nature as well. I sometimes feel great connection with trees, but also with the sea in the beach. For example, when you enter into the
Indeed.
water, this sensation of the womb, or to be like surrounded or embrace somewhat in the water, because I like a lot to enter into the water, and I can be a lot of time without breathing into the water, and it's like floating, I'm floating there, and it's wonderful. It's
Indeed.
really, yeah, but it's all the nature anyway, even
Indeed
in the
it is.
mountains. Yeah.
Now, might someone else have a question or an observation? Please feel free.
Well, I'm interested in, you mentioned the similarities between the nature and the dream time. Can you go more into some of those similarities?
When you are in nature, whether in a forest or park or anything like that, your mind is more attuned to your own inner environment. It is as if it recognizes the contrast between your waking, conscious, focusing, as well as your sleeping, quote unquote, unconscious, unfocusing, where you are not so tightly bound with the rules and regulations of everyday activities. In this way, there is a deeper connection, again, with your body, your psychological experiences, your inner events and conditions. And you feel more at ease and rejuvenated with nature because it is, in a manner of speaking, almost, and we do not necessarily like the terminology, but for lack of a better word, it is almost the same kind of vibe that exists in dreamtime itself that you find within nature, that certain calmness, that ease of being. And first of all, you are comfortable with nature because there is nothing in nature to judge you, not even yourselves. And that is a predominant factor. It gives you peace of mind because your own mind begins to loosen the hold on your senses so that you can open up and literally tap more into your intuitive nature, which is one reason why during the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition, one of the first things to do was for the, shall we say, the witch hunters to go into the forest and to destroy whatever people lived there, especially women who simply wanted to be alone and enjoy a peaceful existence with their herbs and animals. They vilified and demonized them, considered them consorts of evil. So the nature itself leads to intuitive connections, and many of the, especially women, but also men living in small villages in the forests, were perhaps more prone to displaying an intuitive nature, which is why they were often branded as witches. And they were simply displaying entirely natural human traits and characteristics with an intuitive touch. So they then went and decided to start eradicating, which began the massive assault on forests itself, on nature itself, because it was seen as a harbor for things that the church did not want nor desired, meaning people who thought differently from them. You had to be aligned with church teachings or perish. That was the bottom line. We do trust that in some ways your own species has learned from that experience. Though there might still be some people who linger and would like to see that again. But we do encourage you to return your mind to its natural setting, meaning a beautifully managed state of mind or mindset, so that you can flourish and benefit from your own nature. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm following.
Indeed. Or might there be perhaps one last either inquiry or observation for discussion? Please feel free. Indeed, then.
I just have a short comment,
Indeed.
if you don't mind. I
Yes.
noticed that when in a waterfall, when people are playing with water, they tend to go into their own inner monologue. They're not talking to each other. They're just chilling.
Indeed.
They're
They
very calm
enter
and
in
peaceful.
different trance states. They enter a trance state, a dream time state of experience.
Almost like
They
a child.
momentarily forget all of their burdens, all of their daily worries, concerns, and problems, and just enjoy the moment. That way, they are communing with nature. So you see, all of you, in some way or another, are all hippies. You have simply forgotten your hippie nature. Does that make sense to you, KP?
Yes, it does.
So when you are in the mountains, you find a waterfall, a pool, even though the water may be ice cold, take advantage of it. Wherever you are, wherever you can be that affords you a little bit of time in a park or anywhere, by a creek or a river or a stream or in the forest itself, going on hikes, whatever you do, take a moment to breathe deeply and allow the energy from within you to reach out to all of what you see with your senses, you experience with your senses, and perhaps even that which you cannot perceive with your senses. And allow yourself to be nurtured and nourished, because all of that boils down to one thing, that you and nature are deep, sacred expressions of love. Love is not a man-made thing. It is a natural thing. You have simply made it into something, but it is much bigger than the something you have made out of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Indeed, then. We then thank you for your lovely natural consideration. And do have a kick-ass time next when you are in nature in whatever form. And enjoy to your heart's content. Even though we said nature is sacred, it is not meant to mean that you must revere it, but that you must honor it and celebrate it and yourselves as well, because you are part of that nature. Were it not for nature, you wouldn't be here. So with that, we return Joseph to your lovely selves, and may all of your thoughts be filled with the grace and the worthiness that is your natural state.
Thank you, Kris.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kris.
Kris.
Thank you, Kris.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Kris.